This is Prime Sports NASCAR on Prime Sports Network. He's Eric. He's CJ. I'm Greg. And we have a lot to talk about because the last time we were all on together was what? Like 2 weeks ago, guys?
Seems like it.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, the only thing that's happened since the last time that I think we've all spoken together was a couple of really tough races for the casual fan. Now, of course, you got Denny Hamlin on your fantasy team in our league, so that benefited you, no doubt, CJ, this past week.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, who was it? A couple of weeks ago, that really was Harvick, right? Was it Harvick?
Yep.
Yeah, Harvick that won that race, which was the one. I'm confused, but bottom line is those last two races, it's getting to the point, we've talked about this before, it's getting to the point where, you know what, why don't we just turn on these races with like 20 or 30 laps to go? Because in the old days, cars would dominate and they wouldn't win, and we would get that. But I don't know, it just seems like it's getting even worse. I don't know. It's this past race, you had Hamlin winning and stealing the race because of the restarts. That's really all it was. It was a restart race. And because I thought Martin Truex had the best car. He just couldn't. And I don't even know why they decided to go 4 tires. Truex on that last pit stop. The 2-tire pit stop was a smart call. There weren't enough laps left. And that's really all it was, right? It was Hamlin got lucky on the fact that it was a restart race, and because he didn't do anything most of the race except hover in the top 5 or 6. So I don't know. These racetracks are just, this past racetrack was a little bit better, but I'm just kind of glad that we can move on to a different racetrack this week.
Yeah.
Too bad it's New Hampshire.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Too bad it's New Hampshire. I'm just glad. I'm glad we're out of the 1.5 mile racetracks, but now that we're in the 1 mile racetracks, New Hampshire is not exactly where we want.
Well, and you could quote Brad Keselowski when he said after his runner-up last week? Yeah, runner-up, that not a whole lot of you could put into this month of racing because none of it correlates to the playoff tracks. So he said pretty much you just throw caution at the wind and see what happens, because you got New Hampshire this weekend, which really you can compare it to Kansas, but you're not going to take a lot over from New Hampshire and through the playoffs. 2 races at Michigan, which there's no tracks in the playoffs like Michigan. You've got Daytona road course. Nothing other than maybe the Roval, but nobody's ran the Daytona road course before, so you can't really have any correlation there. 2 races at Dover with nothing to compare for the playoffs, and then Daytona. So you're going to have a lot of you don't have a lot you can carry over, but I think you're going to get some good races only for the fact you've got Cole Custer and Austin Dillon who've stolen a win so far. So you got the playoffs that are just going to be a crazy jumbled mathematical mess here coming up. I don't think New Hampshire or Dover you're going to see some surprises, but the Daytona and Michigan ones, buckle up. It's going to get wild. Just pitch strategy. You're going to have guys. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody came down like, hey, you know what? I think 1 tire sounds good. Let's just take 1 tire, no gas, because it's going to be that weird. I think you're going to see a lot of weirdness coming.
Yeah, but up. All we've been dealing with is weirdness. I don't think that. I just the days of seeing. Look, let's put it this way: if Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick were to win a race, CJ, I don't think it's because they're dominating the racetrack. I just think that they're winning how they won these last few races. It's just they just there at the end. We haven't seen somebody dominate and win a race in a long time.
No, we haven't. And you said it just at the beginning. They lurk around that top 5, top 10 area all day. They make the pit strategies working back from the race win. They're able to capitalize on restarts, and they're always going to have fast cars because they're with 2 of the best teams in the series. So, if you look at, I was looking at the stage places for Hamlin from last week's race. He was 2nd in the first stage. He was 4th in the second stage. So again, he wasn't out there dominating. I think the only really kind of unique thing that we had last week with the race was just more attrition than we otherwise have seen over the past couple of weeks. We had a couple of wrecks a couple of mistakes, people hitting the wall, but we also had some mechanical failures as well. So that kind of took away, half of the top 10 that otherwise would have been there. And they really didn't have too much to battle, in those last couple of restarts. Because like you said, Truex made the wrong call. All Hamlin had to do basically was get free into clean air. And that's exactly what he did and walked away with it.
Yeah, look, it is good when we're handicapping because it levels the playing field. So we still like that. It's just it gets aggravating when you feel like you've made the right pick and you've got the best car, and then you still don't win because of a restart or a bad pit call or a late caution, and you sit there and watch these races for 3 hours, and it frustrates you at the end of the race that you all that work you put in to get that car to win, and you don't win. And that's the frustrating part. All right, so let's take a look at the standings then. So what if what we have right now, if we take a look at the borderline, because like you said of those freakish wins, who right now has who's right there on the borderline? Which driver is the first driver in and the first driver out?
William Byron and Tyler Reddick. They are separated by 10 points, 452 to 442.
Okay, and then it's Jones and Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and
correct.
How many more races before the playoffs?
7.
All right, so we still have more than enough time to figure this out. Okay, are any drivers, like if we're taking a look at Boyer and DiBenedetto, are they going to need to win, or are they going to have to sweat it out?
I think they're going to sweat it out. I don't think they have to win because points-wise, if you look at the standings, they're good. And especially how they've run and the capability of their cars, I think they're fine. Their only thing of sweating it out is if somebody behind them wins.
Which is very possible.
At this stage, at this stage, it's very possible, but it's going to be a fluke again.
Which is very possible.
Other than maybe other than Eric Jones, I don't think the guys behind them have like an outright race-winning car.
Sure.
It's not just going to happen on speed.
No, it won't.
It's going to take a fluke, which we saw. But you do have 2 races at Daytona that fluke winners win there all the time on the super speedway. Plus, you've got their road course race that you've got no practice or qualifying that is going to, we know, cause some crazy carnage in racing because I can't imagine going into turn 1 blind and you've never ran into turn 1 before in a race in the stock car.
How about Kurt Busch?
We know things are going to
Is
happen.
Kurt Busch comfortable?
Oh, yeah. I think the 3, Almirola, Kyle, and Kurt, they're completely good. I mean, they've got almost 2 races points-wise to the good. The only way where they won't be is if you see multiple winners behind them.
That's too many.
Which is entirely possible, but I just don't think. We've seen too many flukes, even with Hamlin and Harvick getting wins, that I don't think those guys are going to get shut out in these next 7 races.
All right.
And those guys being Hamlin and Harvick.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. Kyle led 52 laps in his last race, so he's starting to pick up potentially after just one race of momentum. So we'll see. We'll see if he can keep that up. All right, let's. As far as this week's race, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and again, it's a 1 mile track, an asphalt / granite track, flat. So it's. Phoenix is an asphalt flat track, which makes it a similar track. Richmond is a flat track similar to Phoenix, so therefore also similar to New Hampshire. They're all a little different. No Richmond so far this year, so we can kind of look at Phoenix. The only reason why I wouldn't look too much into it, it happened so early in the season. Things are so much different. It happened before the break that I don't think we look too much into it. It's definitely a handicapping tool, but not maybe as much as it would be later in the year. 5 of the last 7 winners started outside the top 10. So this is important because of how many drivers like a Christopher Bell has to worry about that position. hey, if even in qualifying days, you could win outside the top 12. So that's good news for any driver starting way back. Matter of fact, 10 of the last 20 winners started outside the top 10, including positions 18, 19, 20, 24, and 32. So again, I think this could be one of those races. We could see someone from way back. And on the Chevy side, only one win in the last 13 trips to New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Yeah, you're going to get there's potential there for those stats for somebody outside the top 10 to win, but you're definitely, a lot of that happened too because of pitch strategy. And we know they're going to get some fluke caution at the end, or not at the end, maybe towards the end. And this is where I don't know why teams haven't figured this out yet, like Harvick and Hamlin have. The wild strategy that they've been doing, just do it. Just do to stay up there. Like I was shocked that Byron and Bowman, when they took 2 tires at Kansas and were sitting lame ducks in the front row, I'm like, you had to know that we saw even on the end of the first or second stage, I can't remember which one, that 4 tires worked because they shot like a cannon up there. Well, here at New Hampshire, like all the drivers, all the pre-race media notes, transcripts, everything you get, track position, pitch strategy is all they say. Track position, pitch strategy. So coming to the end, why not get yourself some track position on your pitch strategy, aka 2 tires and fuel is all you really need at there. The tires aren't going to wear as bad. It's a slick track, but you're going to have a late restart at some point.
Okay. So that we can see that in this race then. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I would. Because some of these guys too, you've got to get to the point to where you can't points race anymore. You've got to get a win. The Benedetto and Boyer are probably going to go for points. They need points just to keep their cushion. But at some point, a Jimmy Johnson, Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace, those guys on back, you're not going to point your way back in there. You're going to keep falling farther behind to these guys. Go for the win. Get it out of the way because you don't want to – you'd rather try to go for a win now and swing for the fence rather than have to do it at Daytona where it's do or die.
Okay.
Take your chance now. So I think you might see some flukes up there this weekend at the end of the race.
All right, let's start with we'll go through the standings, and Harvick is 3-1, and so he's the heavy favorite. Both of you guys decided to go big on the 2 heavy favorites this week. I stayed away from the 2 heavy favorites, so we'll see how that works. But Harvick, both you guys went heavy there at 3-1. Why not? He's won 3 of 5 races and only 4 in his career. But 3 out of the last 5 races in New Hampshire have been won by Kevin Harvick. He led 216 in the 2015 race. He led 196 in the 06 race from the pole. That was a win. He's got 6 straight top 5s on the year with a runner-up and 2 wins. He was second at Phoenix. We know how good he is there. The one reason I decided to stay away from him, besides the odds being at that number that I just don't know about, 3-1, we've talked about it. That's the number that sometimes I stay away from. Actually, more often than not I do, is that if you look at it, even though he's won 3 out of the last 5 races, he's only led 8, 12, and 41 laps in those races. 61 laps combined in 3 wins. That's not a lot of laps. That's a little bit of luck. And keep in mind that 61 laps led, those 3 wins are his total in the last 6 races. So I just decided 3-1, and I'm going to stay away from him this week. But I can understand why you guys obviously went with such a hot driver in Kevin Harvick, CJ.
Yeah, he and Hamlin have not only been racing for the win for the past month, if not longer, but they were the 2 that were racing for the win in this race last year. I think you mentioned Harvick only leading 41 laps or whatever it was last year, but you look at the 2 guys that led over 100 laps in that race. It was Denny Hamlin and teammate Kyle Busch. With both of their momentum, as we've seen it in these past couple of weeks and at these positions, just as at these tracks, just as Eric described with the strategy that they've been able to get one up on the rest of the field, I can't see much reason to bet against either one of them this week in a track that's going to come down to pit strategy and track position, because those 2 guys have maximized it pretty much every single week for the past month and a half or 2.
Yeah, see, Eric, the thing is I get why you both went with both of them big because, in my opinion, I'm just guessing, but your strategy is, well, we'll go big on both these guys. One of them can win. I mean, the odds are that one of them probably will win. Hamlin has got a series best 5 wins on the season after the win last time out. He has 10 top 5s and 3 wins at this racetrack. He was runner-up last year, leading 113 laps. So, and he's 4-1. Again, another low number, but this is now finally respect time for Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I went with both because you have a good shot of one of them winning. They've won over half the races since the pandemic. Like CJ said, they were 1-2 last year. They're going to have good starting spots. We didn't know it then this morning, but now we do. Hamlin's going to start second and Harvick 7th. So they've got the track position already. And as we talked about just a second ago about pitch strategy, coming to the end, if they hold that track position, they're going to take 2 tires. Why would they do anything different? Because if 4 tires turns out to be the right call, which there's not a lot of room to pass in New Hampshire because the low groove or even the middle groove, depending on how the PGA
great. There's not a lot
works.
of room to pass at New Hampshire.
No.
Terrific.
There's a lot of room in the corners, but it doesn't work. Yeah, so and they're already going to have the clean air. So 2 of the better cars with clean air, and they're going to take the strategy to keep them there. It's going to be tough to pass them. And Kevin Harvick, like you said, he hasn't led a lot of laps, but he finds his way pitch strategy to get himself at the front when it matters. Last weekend in Kansas, I don't know why they wouldn't do it again. So if they stay out of trouble, which I presume they will, they're going to be tough to beat, and their odds are so low, you kind of have to go big on them to win some money back. So it doesn't leave a lot of hope for other drivers to bet on because you wouldn't go all in on them. But it's smart to go all in on them because they're the 2 best drivers right now in the season, and they finished 1-2 last year. So the trust factor with those 2 is very high right now.
Yeah, because really, that's the thing, is it makes no sense that if you're going to take one of the drivers that you just don't take the other one too. And just double up on your investment. Like, for instance, and I'm just using your strategy this week, Eric, you had 40 each out of your 100 allotted on both drivers. If one of them wins, the least you'll make is $40. The most is $80. So that's not bad considering you're talking about 2 favorites. But that's, and look, it's not easy to win these damn races anyway. So,
no.
It's, how many times have we seen all this craziness occur? But I mean, Kyle Busch is 5-1, which is I don't know how Kyle Busch is 5-1 when Harvick and Hamlin are 3 and 4-1.
Shouldn't be.
No.
I don't get that at all.
Not at all.
I know Kyle, who's sitting right now 9th in the standings. Like we said, okay, he started to show some lap leading his last race, and maybe that's the start of him turning the corner, but we won't know officially until Sunday because he's been dominant at this track. 10 top 10s last 12, 7 top 5s, 4 runner-ups, 2 wins, and he's led over 1,000 laps in 28 races at New Hampshire. He was also 3rd at Phoenix, but we are guessing that Kyle Busch has turned the corner, CJ. And I'm sorry. I mean, guessing, that's a mighty big guess, but you're going to go ahead and put Kyle in that. See, I was surprised that you went with, I understand Harvick and Hamlin. Maybe you just want to win. But you decided to go with only 4 picks this week. You went with the top 3, Harvick, Hamlin, and Kyle.
I did. Kyle, he's going to get a win. It's going to come. And if I'm the vast majority of my money on Harvick and Hamlin, then might as well take the other guy that led 118 laps last year. He led 187 in 2017, led 133 in 2016. He knows this track. He led some laps. It's not like he's been, outside the top 10. He's been racing in the top 10, but he's made some mistakes. I think he would have had a top 5 last week had he not bounced off the wall. He's been in position a couple of times and just had weird things happen, whether they're him pushing too hard or a fluke caution puts him off cycle and back down into the traffic again. But I think he's going to win, and no reason that it shouldn't come at a track where he's been as good as he has been at New Hampshire. So yes, I fully admit that it is a guess, but it is a guess that I am willing to take on the same week that I plunk all my money down on Harvick and Hamlin too.
No, I mean, I was actually close to taking Kyle this week myself. It just turned out that I felt a little bit strongly about a couple other drivers, but I was there. I thought too that maybe Kyle would be my top pick, and I'd stay away from the top two drivers. So, but look, again, it's just a guess whether Kyle has turned the corner or not.
Agreed. Yes, it is 100% guess.
And as far as Keselowski, who's second in points, he is that driver that I just felt a little bit better than Kyle Busch. That's why I put 25 on Keselowski at 8-1. I love the odds compared to, say, Kyle. Keselowski's been better than Kyle, and I'm getting 8-1. Now, I know he's only led 19 laps in his last 7 races here, but he's coming off a nice second place finish. He's been so consistent all year long, Eric, and I just got a good feeling about where he's going, and we've talked about this the last few weeks, that Penske's going to get better. The teams, Blaney we know is there. Keselowski's I think he's heading back in the right direction. Legano, still kind of iffy, but we get the feeling maybe he'll get there too, which is the reason why I've started to put some money on him on my futures report over the last few weeks, because I get good odds there, and I just have a good feeling that Keselowski might be due for another win real soon.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure Penske's guys are, because look, right now they're just consistently running there. Legano has been a top 5, top 10 car. He just has get caught up in a wreck, mechanical failure. He's just something's kept him out there. So I don't think he's a outside of a top 10.
Isn't it amazing that Legano is 6th in the point standings? He's still 6th.
Yeah, he's still right there. And he's got 2 top 5s during the pandemic. That's it.
Yeah.
What I wonder with Penske, and they won't admit to this, they will tell you that all 3 teams, it's hurt them with the crew chief change during the pandemic, because I get it. You got no practice or qualifying. You're literally guessing each weekend on setups. I'm wondering how much of these last few weeks or even month or so that they're not working on setups just to learn each other for playoff tracks. Granted, there may be some tracks of, man, this setup doesn't even correlate to anything in the playoffs, but let's work on some lingo. Let's work on gaining some stuff together and we've all got wins. We all know we're going to be in the top 10 of the point standings. Let's maybe learn each other so we can win a championship here, because we don't have the aspect of practice. And if you look, their finishes are just solid right now. Other than Blaney, I think right now, if I had to say a championship favorite, yes, Harvick and Hamlin keep winning, but Blaney just seems to have the speed. He's just got bad luck on finishes. What happens when we get a race, like you said, Greg, that lets somebody dominate and win? That's going to be a Blaney at some point. I've got to think that maybe the playoffs becomes that point, and he starts turning some heads. But the Penske group overall, their speed doesn't look any worse. It just looks like they're trying stuff out. So I think this is a good track for them to try stuff out and go for pitch strategy to put themselves there. I mean, look, Keselowski's just been a top 10 machine. He finished second in Kansas and says that it's his best. As I get a phone call coming in, best. He feels like he's been running for years. He feels like the speed's there. But if you look at his finishes, it's like outside the top 5, but inside the top 10. So something's going to kick that thing into gear. And yeah, for 8-1, it's a good risk this weekend for that.
Blaney is 9-1. CJ and I took Blaney. You stayed away, Eric, from Blaney this week. CJ and I didn't put a whole lot on Blaney, just enough that if he wins, we kind of get our money back. But he's been strong here. Last 3 races, 4, 7, and 9. He didn't have luck at Phoenix. That's one of his unlucky races. So I don't worry about that. The result, he actually performed well there. So yeah, I mean, Blaney, I think with Blaney, CJ, and I don't know about what you were thinking, but I was just thinking, well, look, I can't stay away from him because he's been so hot. I got to put something on him just in case he doesn't get bad luck this week. But on the flip side, I don't want to invest too much because I've already invested too much in him over the last few weeks, and I'm sick and tired of crap happening.
Yeah, I get that. He's hard to stay away from because of exactly what Eric said. He's been so fast. He is the fastest car, in my opinion, on the circuit right now. Earlier in the season, when we came back from the pandemic, it was him and Elliott. Elliott's faded. Blaney has stayed on, but there have been mistakes. There have been things that have happened that, for whatever reason, keep him out. I think he's another one that was, in position to win, but then a caution based on the pit strategy that he was on left him deep in the field. He had to claw his way back, and he just didn't have enough time to get back up there. But by the time the race ended, he was back in the top 10 again. So he's one of those guys that has the pace and just needs things to fall in his direction. And it is going to be a race that he ends up dominating because he is clearly faster. He's got the speed of Hamlin and Harvick, and those two guys have been winning so much, not leading a ton of laps. If Blaney gets out front, he's just going to run away from him. It's going to be over. So, yeah, I would have put more on him, but I didn't have enough because of Harvick so much this week. But yeah, you can't ignore him this week. He's just very fast. The only thing I don't like about him this week is his starting position, which is 12th.
Well, he's been definitely capitalizing on good positions lately, but I guess in a way it hasn't really helped him in the end result. Maybe it's a good thing that he's starting a little bit further back in this race. Maybe that's exactly what he needs.
It's his bad luck again. He draws the worst starting spot he can get. Yep. It's just like he's got to. It reminds me of him as like that guy that like your point guard that scores you like 35 points in the first 4 quarters, but LeBron James hits the game-winning 3 and gets all the glory.
Sure.
That's kind of what's going on. The dude's dominating, but here comes like Hamlin and Harvick to win. It's like, hey, wait a minute. They won. Here, go over here, Blaney. These guys keep winning. It's like, don't underestimate that guy. So
I wonder how much of that is experience, or it's just bad luck.
I think a lot's bad luck. I mean, you look at Texas. He led 150 laps and swept both stages, and he should have won that race. Kentucky, a broken shifter. I mean, he had a car to win, and then your shifter breaks. What are the odds of that happening? Like this week, drawing 12th. And while Hamlin starts 2nd and Harvick starts 7th. I mean, Harvick won from 14th the last 2 years. He's got half the starting spot back. I think it's bad luck, but eventually that bad luck runs out. And like Harvick and Hamlin have said, they've addressed it. Like, we don't think we have the fastest cars. We just sometimes good luck finds guys that just happen to be around, and that's what's happening to them. Eventually, Blaney's going to get that karma, and that's why I think. I mean, we're not even to the playoffs.
Oh yeah, we got a long way to go.
Speed still.
Yeah.
If he can get that speed in the playoffs, which I mean, I forget what we talked about it in the emails this week. What was he 9-1 championship odds or something like that?
Yep. Yep.
Why not still keep throwing money his way? Because if he starts getting hot in the playoffs, he's going to be right there at 3 or 4 to 1.
Now he's never led a lap in 7 races, but once again, we don't care about that. As far as his career at this track, we don't care about that because he's just a different driver, and it hasn't mattered at all when he's come to tracks where he's had the same similar types of statistics. But quickly, one more thing, Eric. Why do I read sometimes on Twitter that fans complain that Ryan Blaney wrecks other drivers? Where's that coming from? I'm not noticing any of that. I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm not either. I don't know. There's a lot of things on Twitter, the dark world over there, that I stay away from. It's just, I don't know. I don't see him running people wrong. The drivers certainly don't feel like it. Nobody's really got problems with Blaney, so I'm not real sure. I will say, which was a little odd last Thursday, Kevin Harvick had some beef with Chase Elliott about him always racing him like that. I don't know what he's talking about. I haven't seen it. That's another aspect without being at the racetrack, other than Kentucky that we got to go to, and Bristol, which Bristol's the All-Star race. But you don't get to see the full field on things happening. Really, TV shows you like the top 3. They don't show you what's going on behind. So there may have been instances where Elliott has run Harvick hard. I don't know, but that was an odd comment that I heard. It's like, whoa, there's some beef here. What's going on here?
Let's hope so.
But I don't get the Blaney aspect. Yeah, he seems to be one of the more popular drivers in the garage. So I don't know what that was about.
Speaking of Elliott, he's 5th in points, but no top 10s last 4 races. We're not counting the All-Star race. That's why he's 10-1. This is the best odds you've had for Chase Elliott in a long time. Only 1 top 10 in 6 races at this track. So he hasn't really done anything here, and he's driving a Chevy. So those are all bad signs coming to New Hampshire for Elliott, while Logano's 12-1. And let's not forget, he won Phoenix, but he's only led one lap in his last 7 races at this track, and he's been 11th or better though in 8 of his last 9, including 4 top 5s and a win. So, what about Legano versus Elliott? I'd probably go with Legano.
Oh, I'm going Legano for sure. Legano is the one that's had the speed. It's just been weird things that have happened to him too, similar to Blaney. I'm not sure where Elliott's speed is gone. I mean, outside of the All-Star race, he's finished outside the top 10 in the last 4 races.
That's Chevy in general, though, isn't it?
Not. It is, yeah. But I mean, for whatever reason, Penske, who's in Ford, they're not the fastest cars aside from Blaney, but they're able to score consistent results. I mean, Elliott was there when we came back from the pandemic. He's gone backward. The Penske cars have stayed there, and yeah, they've had bad luck, but they've not been consistently down. And Elliott's been consistently down for a while. I was hoping the All-Star race win would be his springboard back, but it hasn't happened. He's had 2 finishes of 12th since then, and he hasn't been a factor. So that's what concerns me about him this week.
It's like Toyota. For a while, it was only Hamlin. But now everyone else is starting to pick things up. So that's what Chevy's got to do. They've got some work. But as we said, we've got a long way to go. Truex and Almirola. Truex 7-1, Almirola 16-1. I've got both drivers. Neither of you guys. No, Eric, you've got Truex, but neither of you guys got Almirola. Maybe you've gotten sick of taking him, but his odds have definitely come down. That's the thing about Almirola. It was nice when he was 30-1 and 25, but he couldn't close the door with those odds. Now his odds are getting lower, so now the bargain aspect isn't there as much as it was. I do like the fact that, of course, he's got 8 straight top 10s and 5 top 5s, and the fact that he led 42 laps and 12 laps in his last 2 races combined here, which is good. No laps previous 15 races at New Hampshire. So I think that might say, okay, maybe Almirola might have something this week. But like I said, neither one of you guys took him. But Truex is I was surprised, to tell you the truth, that Truex was getting 7-1. If anything, Truex should have got 5-1, not Kyle. They should have flipped the odds, because Truex has got 6 top 10s in his last 7 at this track, 5 straight. He's led 596 laps in his last 6 races at New Hampshire. That's 99 a race. And he's coming off a race that we said he was probably the best car, just didn't get a break at the end. So that's why I went really heavy on Martin Truex.
Yeah, that's why I went with him too. It was between him or Kyle, because I was kind of like CJ's strategy. Like, all right, I've got invested the top 2. I got to find the next third and go top heavy. And he won out just because, like you said, he was second in Kentucky. He had a top 5 car in Texas and got wrecked. He had the best car in Kansas and finished 3rd. And now he's going to a track where he's got 6 top 10s in his last 7. Plus, I compare Loudon a lot more to like Martinsville, long straightaways, sweeping corners. He won Martinsville. So I feel like that you have to carry speed on the straightaway, but somehow get your car dialed enough to carry that momentum into the corner. You got to be loose enough for speed to handle it into 1, but carry off speed through the middle of the turn off of 2 to get your speed down the back stretch, and then 4 the same way down the front stretch. And they seem to have found something at Martinsville, and I bet you they're going to take that same setup to here. So if it worked there, it should work here, and you're getting them for 7-1 compared to 5-1. So I was shocked. I think another top 5, and he's going to be in the Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick playground of the 4 and 5-1.
That's why I hope he wins before those odds come down.
Yeah, because this would be the week to cash in on it, because now you're going to go to Michigan, a high horsepower horsepower track, and he's pretty good at Michigan. So I think this is the hot streak that we're going to start seeing of Truex. So yeah, cash in now, because I'm going to say going into the playoffs, just because of how good he is at Dover and how good he's done at Michigan and how hot he is right now, which he can do good at New Hampshire. Throw Daytona out because it's a crapshoot. He's going to be 3-4-1 going into Darlington for the playoffs.
CJ, you don't have anybody else on the board, so you only took 4 drivers. So out of the drivers that we have not spoken about, and a lot of them are long shots now. Who else were you considering? Who do you think might be a pretty decent fantasy play or a top 5 with the remaining drivers?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough from a win perspective, certainly, but if you open it up to a top 5, you got to be looking at a Kurt Busch. I think probably even one of the newer guys like a Tyler Reddick. I mean, he's in a championship fight now. So look for him. Plus, even the teammate Austin Dillon coming forward as well. So I'm looking at guys like that. But again, aside from Truex probably being the only guy that I could come out and win this week just because of Martinsville, exactly as Eric said. I looked at that really hard. I don't really see many other winners. So looking through there, I'd probably go pretty long from a fantasy standpoint. Even look at Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer, Christopher Bell this week. We were talking about him before we went live here. He's got a 35th starting position. So from a fantasy perspective, he's going to be tearing forward because he's not a 35th place driver. He's going to be coming forward. He's going to get those finish differential points. But I think if you're looking for a top 5, top 10 kind of guy, a Tyler Reddick, a Cole Custer, maybe a William Byron, because he's also been more consistent. I think Byron's probably just going to flirt with the top 10. I think probably Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer, your guys are going to be in there with a shout.
The only other driver that we shared a pick with, Eric, is Eric Jones. We both put some money on Jones. Why not? In his last 2 races, 5th and 6th, he's got 2 top 10s at this track, including a 3rd last year. And if you look back even further, he's got a couple more pretty good results. So it is possible that he's starting to now get into a little bit of a groove, as we said, with this whole group of Toyotas. So 25 to 1 is not bad to throw a few bucks on.
No, especially he finished 3rd last year there. I mean, Toyotas are pretty strong at New Hampshire. That package, they seem to do well in the turns. So I like him this weekend because of that. Plus, I feel like this is his last chance to get a win outright. So I think they're going to have to do strategy to get him there because he's starting 17th, I believe. Yes, 17th. So stage points are going to be difficult to come by for him. So I feel like if he wants to win on pace with some strategy help, this is it. Because then you got Michigan. Dover's it seems to be a crapshoot. It seems like we see a lot of carnage there in the 2 Daytonas. So he's got good history at New Hampshire. So let's see if he can get there. Hamlin and Truex have wins already. So if he happens to be battling up there with them, I wouldn't fix the race, but I would find a way to get your teammates to victory lane. Because look, it's going into August. This weekend is August. He doesn't have a deal yet. He does not have a contract signed. Levine Family Racing's talking about shutting up shop for after this season. Gibbs is going to they're not going to want to lose Christopher Bell. That's for sure. You're not going to let him get away. If Eric Jones misses the playoffs, count him out. I don't see how Gibbs brings them back. You can't have that type of team and miss the playoffs. So he knows how big and how important a win is going to be. And I expect top 5s and top 6 aren't going to do it for him anymore. We keep seeing him do that, but he keeps falling farther back in the points. So he's going to have to make some magic, and then we're at the magic mile. So let's see what he does.
I'm surprised with all the fluky results we've had lately that you guys didn't go after fluky drivers this week. So, I mean, I just got to keep putting fluky drivers in every week. So that's why I put in Reddick and Newman this week as my fluky drivers. But, yeah, I mean, nobody took DiBenedetto. That surprised me. He's getting actually good odds at 30 to 1. But 5th last year and doing pretty well. It's 13th in points if you throw out the wins. So, yeah, nobody took DiBenedetto. Byron was 10th last week. Nobody went that way at 60 to 1. Let's see. Jimmy's at 40 to 1, but he hasn't had a top 10 in 7 races, and he just looks like he's going backwards. Bowman's 50 to 1, coming off an 8th place finish last week. Boyer's 33 to 1. He was 5th at Phoenix. He's got 2 wins at this racetrack, but no top 10s in his last 4 on the season. Custer was 7th last week. He's 100 to 1. And he mentioned Bell is also 100 to 1. Stenhouse has been just awful the last 4 races. I don't know what's going on with that car and that team. They are just terrible. over the last 4 races, and Matt Kenseth is also 40-1. So I'm a little bit surprised, TJ, that you didn't at least throw in a couple of fluky drivers.
I didn't have enough money left after I spent it all. Hamlin, I don't think this is the week you're going to have a fluke.
Yeah, well, that's what we say every week.
It's a track position race. I know it's true, but I think Eric's right. I think this week you kind of get the standard with the no passing.
Well, this is the week that if we see a fluky win, that all bets are off. Forget it. Flukes the rest of the year.
Yes. Yes, is exactly right. And I think starting next week, probably we start throwing in more flukes. I just think New Hampshire, with the one kind of groove, difficult to pass, track position, aerodynamically sensitive, you're going to end up with.
All right.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of these fluky guys fall a lap down early. Just their starting spots aren't up front with those faster guys in general. And you don't have like a mile and a half, you can luck out just pitch strategy as far as short pitting or pitting long, or you don't have that luxury at New Hampshire on a mile track. Michigan, 2-mile track, you can pit and not lose a lap. That's when you're going to start seeing some flukes. It does. Yep. The only pitch strategy here is 2 or 4 tires, and that's not going to come until the end of a race. So I don't think those guys will be on a lead lap to do that unless these guys just start wrecking each other
on restarts. Yeah,
that's the only thing. That's the only hope you've got.
Let's hope for that.
That could happen. Yeah. You never know. Michigan's next week, doubleheader Saturday, Sunday, right? So that's okay.
Correct.
I mean, it was just like 4 or 5 years ago. I used to look forward to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing that we're going to have, I hope we're not talking about it, but let's be honest, it's that age-old theory. If you're in a drought, hire NASCAR to come to your hometown because rain's coming. So I cannot fathom.
What are they starting at 4 o'clock? Both days.
4 o'clock
ding, 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 and no lights at all at those tracks. So
I don't get it.
One rainstorm is going to knock that thing out because it's getting dark by 9 o'clock.
And they've ruined their chances ratings-wise because it's it. This weekend, you got basketball, hockey, and baseball.
Yep, and you're starting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, why don't beat them to it? Can we not start?
Even basketball and hockey will start at 12 o'clock this weekend.
Yep. And then you're going to start getting into like more golf tournaments coming up. That's going to start going on.
Big one this
NBC
week.
Airwaves.
Big one next week.
Yeah.
Yep. So the days of
you're giving too many people. Yeah, you're giving too many people things to do before the race that they're not tuning in at 4 o'clock. Like why? It's the end of summer. People might take one more vacation before they have to homeschool their kids because who knows if we're ever going back to school. So they're not watching a race at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And God knows if it rains, they're not. What are you going to start the race at 7:30 and get dark at 9 and think you're going to get 400 miles in? It's just. I just because it's how it's gone. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about rain in a couple of weeks because something's going to factor or lightning. No rain, but lightning in the area.
I know, right?
There you go.
One little lightning cloud, 15 miles away, will delay everything for 30 minutes, and then so on and so on and so on.
With nobody in the.
With nobody, yeah. So how about this week? Any fans this week?
Yes, about 19 to 20,000.
Very nice.
So there will be fans there.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. All right, guys. RotoWire, what are you doing there, CJ?
We've only got the Cup Series going this week, so we'll have our fantasy preview up sometime tomorrow, and we'll have the race recap up sometime on
Race
Monday.
review? Is it still racereviewonline.com? Eric.
Yeah, we're still working on the whole .blog.
Come on now.
Thing is. I think I've gathered there just needs to be a payment just to get the .com back. So I think that's what I'm going to end up having to do. Just so it's not .com, .blog, or whatever the heck it went to. I'll pay them whatever they need just to get that .com back on there. So it still works if you go to it. It's all there. Everything's there. I just don't want to lose everything in the past.
No, you don't want to do that.
But yes, we'll have stuff up for Sunday only. No Xfinity, no trucks, no IndyCar. Just Cup, F1. That's it on Sunday.
All right, sounds good. We'll recap the race on Monday morning. So looking forward to that. We'll talk some IndyCar next week as well as they get back into action a week from this weekend. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.